Okay, we'll move on to our class. We're talking about illusion, and illusion goes many different layers. Um, in this world of time and space, we are, there's three different um, planes where that compose time and space, which are called, the Tibetan calls the three worlds of form. Who can tell me what the three worlds of form is? Curtis, not you this time. Let's get somebody else in since you've got the answers done pretty good. Let's pick on Asaf. What are the three worlds of form, Asaf?
The physical, which is the etheric actually. So let's combine it. Both the dense physical and the etheric are the is the first, and the second is the astral, the emotional, and the third is the mind.
Yeah. And then above that, what are the worlds called? The planes.
Uh, uh, I
The
don't
three
remember the
worlds of
name.
form is one division, and then there's another major division called something worlds.
The I don't remember the name.
Formless?
Well,
Okay.
monadic and divine.
Yeah.
In
He
the middle,
calls them the formless worlds.
The formless. Okay,
Yeah,
yeah,
formless worlds.
the
Okay, there's
formless.
four of them on the cosmic physical plane, which he calls. Now, the cosmic physical plane is the lowest. Then there's seven cosmic planes, so that makes 49 planes altogether, and we're on the lowest of the 49. You could say right here.
how low can we go?
Yeah, but even though we're on the lowest, we use the emotional plane and we use the plane of the mind. Why does he call the emotional plane and the plane of the mind the worlds of form? What do you think? Is there form on the emotional plane? And is there form on the plane of the mind? Can what you with your mind visualize form?
Called a thought form.
Yeah. So, and can you feel the essence of a form with your emotions?
Yeah.
You desire something. We form creates a desire in us, and we be almost all of our desires are around form. Now, when you go beyond the physical, here in the physical, if you want to create an apple, you got to go plant an apple tree and nourish it. And then finally, after a number of years, you can finally pick an apple off the tree. And so it's quite a process to actually manifest things. If you want to uh, build a doghouse for your dog, well, you have to get all the parts and put it together. But you can manifest it, but it's a really big effort. But
And
you
you
go,
dog.
yeah, you go to the higher worlds. If you desire an apple, well, bung, there's the apple right there. You don't have to go out and plant a tree or anything. You can just, in the higher worlds, you can create with your feeling nature. If you desire something enough, you can manifest it. Then you go up to the plane of the mind. What's the difference between creating an apple in the astral world of feeling and the world of the mind? What do you think? How would you create an apple in the mental world?
You just say a word.
Abracadabra.
Okay, you would visualize the apple. You visualize the apple, and there it would be. In the astral world, you desire the apple, and the apple would be. In the physical world, you have to put forth the ingredients. You got to plant the seed and let the let the tree grow and nourish it, and then after maybe 5 or 6 years, you can pick some apples from the tree.
Go to the store. Our store in Ontario is called the Red Apple.
Yeah, or you can go to the store to fulfill that desire, give them some money and buy the apple from somebody that's already gone through that long process. But no matter how you get that apple, it's it's a lot more difficult on the physical plane than in the higher planes. Now, in the higher spheres, beyond the world of three worlds of form, is like in the Atmic plane, there is a world of divine ideas, and there we have ideas, and then they're manifest through the Buddhic plane, and then they filter down to the three worlds of form, and then the ideas can manifest there. So it's really interesting, but somewhat complex. But in these three worlds of form, there's all kinds of illusion that separate us from true reality and true seeing and true perception. And in this physical world, we have our physical appetites, and that distract us from seeing the true reality. In the astral world, we have glamour and the ego that distracts us from seeing the true reality. But then, after we transcend those two things, master our appetites and our desire nature on the physical plane, and then we have to master our emotional selves, so that if somebody comes and insults you, you don't have to respond to it. You don't have to hit them back. But once those two things are mastered, then we get up to the plane of the mind. And once you get to the plane of the mind where true illusion is, you've already dissipated significant amount of energy that pulls you into illusion. So you get to the plane of the mind, it's a different type of illusion. It's kind of like a magic trick. When you see a magic trick, somebody pulling a rabbit out of a hat or doing some magic or a card trick or whatever, it's an illusion. It's not real magic, but it's a trick to make you think something is happening that's not happening. Okay, and this is what illusion is on the plane of the mind. You are tricked into looking in the wrong direction. So the person can be a very good spiritual student, be on the path, be very sincere. He's overcome his appetites, he's controlled his sex drive, and then he's controlled his emotion, he's very stable, but he can still be tricked into thinking something that is not true is true. And this happens all the time. If you just watch on the media, some of the political arguments that people have back and forth, you can clearly see the illusion on at least one side, the side that's opposite of your own belief. It's easy to see how they're an illusion, but what's difficult is to see how you may be an illusion. And this is the tricky part. When I was young, I thought I was I thought I was a really good singer. And we didn't have tape recorders when I was young. They were really rare, you know, they were coming into existence, but hardly anybody had one that I knew. And my favorite song was Runaway by Del Shannon, and it had a falsetto in. And I thought I was doing that, singing that song really good. And every time I sang that song around my family, they kept telling me to quiet down and go and shut up. Nobody appreciated me singing around the house. And my dad, my parents were divorced, but my dad came to pay a visit, and I was singing the song around him, and he was shaking his head. And he went and borrowed a tape recorder from a friend of his. And he came and shoved a microphone in my face. He says, "Now sing that song again." Into this mic.
Be honest, your dad.
So I sang that song, and he says, "Okay, now we're going to play this back." And he pushed the button, and I was just horrified. I mean, I sounded horrible. I thought, I thought, boy, did that ever wake me up. And it was probably a really good thing, because it really woke me up to the fact that I was seeing myself entirely different than the true reality. I was miles away from being a professional singer of any kind. I thought I might have be a rock star or something eventually, but that completely woke me up to the true reality there. And this is what all of us need at least one time in our life, to be woken up to the fact that, hey, I am just not seeing things correctly. How about you guys? Have you ever had a awakening experience like that, where you believed a certain way and then found out that your belief was pretty much illusion? Curtis, hasn't he just been right all around your whole life, right?
Once I thought I was wrong, but I was wrong.
Yeah, right.
No, you get awakenings all through your life. You get little snippets of truth that put you in a correction, personal correction. High school especially.
Yeah, I see Andrew's with us. Andrew, have you had a awakening where you've come to awaken that you to something that you believed one way, and then it turned you around?
Yeah, nothing comes to mind at the moment, but I'm kind of going through that right now. So it's live, it's in progress. I mean,
Does that image in the background there represent your thought process?
no, but that's a good yeah, kind of actually. It's either Kandinsky or it's meant to imitate his style. So I do think that's sort of what goes on in abstract realms. And just to put it politely, thank God I'm not clairvoyant or clairaudient, because I don't think I can handle that. But I am reminded of something HPB said. She said that we go through a transformation, and this was on my mind earlier. She says that the Blavatsky of a certain era is different than the Blavatsky that comes right after that. And she used words like an inseparable chasm. And I'm not going to harp on it now, but there was something in your meditation which I thought was interesting, having to do with I think you would, I don't know what the word you used maybe was separation, had to do with heaven and earth, but I think that relates to what you're saying maybe. And I just wondered what you were getting at with that, because you used it so intentionally that you used it 2 or 3 times. And I kind of had a question about that. I don't know if you know what I'm talking about, but it does refer to transmutation, transformation, and transfiguration.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Well, good comment. Yeah, I've had a number of awakenings in my life, like when I come to the conclusion the reincarnation was real, and the church I was in believed it was the doctrine of the devil. So harmonizing those two things was an awakening. Therefore, let's pick on somebody else here.
Tyler.
Tyler? Okay, we'll pick on Tyler. How about you, Tyler? Have you had any awakenings in your life to, hey, I guess I was wrong about this?
Well, one was really troubling for me in a way, which was I remember where I was. I was sitting on this couch in our basement, and I was reading one of your articles, and it said that Jesus and the Christ were different entities, and I was just that totally blew me away. And my the whole religion is based on Jesus Christ being one person in the whole thing. And so that was kind of earthquake moment for me, and I knew it was true. Like it wasn't like, oh, this is, I sensed that it was as true at the time from when I read it from your stuff, and uh, it was different from then on.
Yeah, DK teaches that in the Bailey works, and when I first read that, it threw me for a loop also. And it took me, I had to put that on the shelf for a little while till I really thought about it, you know. And it's a lot different than regular Orthodox teaching in the churches, but you can see how it makes sense. And I got a powerful witness that that was true. Well, interesting. Anybody else have transforming ideas that they've had to adapt to? Well, we're going to talk about two illusions that a good portion of humanity are trapped in, that I hope nobody here is trapped into them. And the first one was, did we go to the moon? And we're going to talk about two of them. Did we go to the moon? And also the people that believe in the flat earth. And a similar number of people are trapped in both of these illusions. Approximately 12% of the people believe solidly we didn't go to the moon and that the earth is flat. And then there's about another 10%. They didn't ask the question that way on the moon landing, but on the flat earth, another 10% aren't sure if the earth is flat or not. They're considering both sides. They didn't ask that question with the moon landing, but I suppose it's about the same. Probably about another 10% just don't know if we went to the moon or not. But it's interesting when you think about this. These are not, some of these people that believe these things are not stupid. I mean, they're portrayed as being stupid by a lot of scientists and things, but if you talk to them and read some of their stuff, they have done a lot of thinking on this, and they're just trapped in an illusion that all their thinking is on the side of proving that either we didn't go to the moon or that the earth is flat, and they use a high degree of intelligence to promote some interesting things. Why do you suppose that some people, for instance, believe that we did not go to the moon? Do you know of any of their arguments that they make?
Well, the flag was there was no wind blowing the flag, or
Yeah,
the wind.
yeah. The flag moves back and forth, but there's no wind.
Yeah.
Also, with the camera, there was no stars in when they took pictures of the moon there, and um, they they now after they got back from the moon and everything, NASA doctored up some of the pictures, and they take these pictures and they indicate, well, this is proof it was created on a stage of some type. And so they've come up with about 20 different points about this. And what the principle behind this, that these people are able to find these evidences. Oh, another one is the Van Allen radiation belt. They say that would kill anyone that went through that radiation belt. So going beyond the Earth to any degree would be impossible. And so they have all these things. And so they say we couldn't have gone to the moon. But the first thing you want to look at when you look at these theories that contradict what seems to be the reality is the whole picture. Could this whole picture just be an illusion or not? And so the whole picture, when you look at it, they spent $20 billion, which is about, would be like about $400 billion in today's money to develop the rocket that took us to the moon. It was a tremendous amount of money. That money had to go somewhere. And they actually had the rocket, the Saturn rocket. We watched it on television. The astronauts got in there and they blasted off somewhere. Okay, so we saw them go up into space somewhere there. And then we saw them land on the moon and going through all this process, building this whole picture. And then they went back 6 times. If the moon landing was fake, or if they decided to fake it, you'd think, well, we just do it one time and that'll be it. And that's got the job done that we want done. We wouldn't go back we wouldn't risk being exposed 6 or 7 different times. And so you look at the whole picture like that. And also the idea that there were 400,000 people involved in the moon launch. And figure all the employees, all the people on Earth that was tracking it, all these things. And you think of the number of people that would have had to been in on the conspiracy. It's just boggles the mind. I mean, it's just almost impossible. So when you look at things where the illusion is involved, what you want to look at, first of all, is the big picture. Could this big picture be created by being just manufactured as a part of some conspiracy? And then if it is, what would be the purpose? So you begin to ask these questions. And if there's no good answer to the question, then, probably what you saw is what you got. So what these people fail to overlook, though, is all the evidence that we did go to the moon. First of all, we went there 6 different times. And then we also went and circled the moon a couple times before we actually went there. And then we had Apollo 13, where they had an explosion on their way to the moon and they had to come back. And so was that explosion engineered and all that drama that took place before us? I don't know if how many of you remember that, but it kept everybody riveted to their TV for about a week as we were wondering whether or not these astronauts was going to be able to survive and make it back with Apollo 13. They even made a movie of it, which was a really good movie. But would they have they would have had to engineer that fake breakdown of Apollo 13, because it did go actually around the moon and then come back. And so anyway, something else, they brought back in all the 6 times. We landed there 6 times and we circled the moon 3 different times. Okay. And in those 6 times, we brought back 842 pounds of moon rocks that were distributed to 100 labs worldwide. These scientists did analysis. They concluded it was extraterrestrial material. And all the scientists that examined the moon rocks were convinced they were truly moon rocks. Then, to cap everything off, they placed laser reflectors on the moon to be able to measure the distance from the exact distance from the Earth to the moon. And so they actually physically place these reflectors on the moon, and they're still there. Scientists can still send a laser beam to the moon and have it reflected back, and then measure the time it took light to go there and back, and they can measure the exact distance the moon is from the Earth. And they found something interesting, that in a time period of a year, the moon is actually moving away from the Earth. It moves away about, I believe it's about an inch a year, something like that. That's how fine they can measure that distance. Then they put a seismograph on the moon to measure moonquakes. And when the Apollo left the orbit of the moon, they sent a portion of the rocket back, and it crashed on the moon, and it made a moonquake, and they could register that moonquake from the Earth. And the interesting thing about the moonquake is the moon rang like a hollow gong, and it made a lot of people think the moon was hollow, because it vibrated for a much longer period of time than they expected. Like it was, it made a lot of people think the moon was hollow, and it produced theories that it may be an artificially designed satellite that was put there by aliens years ago. So that's another story. Now, the rockets that went to the moon was tracked by other countries: Japan, India, China, South Korea, Soviet Union, and also the other nations have sent orbiters to the moon, and they have actually photographed the landing sites and the tracks that the moon rovers made are visible, and the artifacts that were left there can still be seen, and they have been imaged by several different nations that have sent orbiters around the moon. And another thing they did, before we lit on the moon, we sent an unmanned probe that lit on the moon. It was called Surveyor 3. And when Apollo, the second mission to the moon, landed, they landed right next to this Surveyor 3, and they took the camera from it, and they brought it back to the Earth. So they physically went to the moon and brought something that was on the moon that we had previously put there, and brought it back. And it was examined by the scientists, and they determined that, yeah, this had collected cosmic rays and everything, just like it would have if it was really on the moon. So this was the real thing. So anyway, there's tremendous evidence that is overlooked, and so you have these theories that sound pretty good, that we didn't land on the moon, until you look at the solid evidence that we did actually land on the moon. And if we didn't, if we faked it, do you think China or Russia would make a big deal about that? Yeah, matter of fact, Russia tracked our Apollo missions, and they knew exactly where we were and what we were doing. And they would have exposed us if we didn't really land on the moon. So it's interesting, the arguments that are made, though. If you don't know all the evidence that we didn't land on the moon, and you just listen to the guys tell you why we didn't land on the moon, you might really buy into it and think, well, the guy's got a good argument there. And we uh, we we couldn't really go through that Van Allen belt. We actually kind of avoided most of the Van Allen radiation belt that they say that we couldn't go through. So anyway, we did actually go to the moon, but there's 22% of the population of the United States either think that we did not or doubt that we did. And that illusion could be easily dispelled if they were able to look into it with an open mind. Okay. Does anyone here believe we didn't go and want to present some arguments?
I'm fairly convinced that we went.
Yeah, everybody was convinced till somebody all of a sudden come up with a couple of things that didn't make sense to them, and they started circulating that, and everybody think, well, maybe we didn't go to the moon.
I remember Robin and Mike Lee were thinning apples with us in, I think it was July 1969, and we listened intently on the radio, the whole moon launch and landing and the whole thing. I remember it was a real big deal.
It was pretty thrilling, when that happened.
Summer
Okay,
of Love.
another great illusion that's out is the flat Earth. When I was young, I didn't know if anybody believed in flat Earth. I did research into it a little bit and found out that there was a flat Earth society, and they only had a small handful of members. And then when the internet became really popular, somebody started circulating arguments as to why the Earth is flat, and it started to really catch on. And it was amazing that in an area, as we were entering an era of a greater science, there seemed to be greater entrapment in this illusion of the flat Earth. Because, like I say, when I was young, you couldn't find anybody that believed in the flat Earth. Now they're all over the place. So people used to believe in a flat Earth, but there was a handful of scientists or thinkers that kind of considered the Earth might be round and a sphere or a globe. And the first person on record to do that was a Greek mathematician named Rathonis, and he lived in 240 BC. And he noted on the 21st day of June of that year in a town called Cyrene that the reflection of the sun could be seen in a deep well, meaning that it was directly overhead. But then in Alexandria, around 800 kilometers away and almost directly north of Cyrene, at noon on the same day, the angle of the sun was about 7 degrees or 1/50th of a circle off. So if the Earth was directly flat, the angle would have been identical in both places. Now, from this, he concluded that the circumference of the Earth must be 50 times the distance between Cyrene and Alexandria. And this gave him a figure that was very close to the true size or circumference of the Earth as we know it today. So he was a pretty smart guy to figure that out, but he figured that out way back in that day.
Wow.
So, but not very many people got a wind of his discovery there. But one of the reasons, main reasons a lot of people believe in a flat Earth is because of a literal belief in what the Bible literally says. For instance, it says in Isaiah that God will gather the dispersed of Judah from the four corners of the earth. So they say, well, the earth has four corners to it. Now, that language is like a figure of speech. So we still use the four corners of the earth today, and figuratively, and when we use it that way, we don't mean there's four actual corners to the earth, but they use that figuratively. But even the Bible doesn't present it literally the way that people say, because the word corners comes from a Hebrew word kanef, and this is more accurately translated as extremis, an extremity or the farthest reaches of a border. Okay, so in other words, the word corners means the farthest you can extend yourself upon the planet would be the four corners of the earth.
Hey, can I say something there?
Yeah.
In one article that I have that I actually pass out, it says that the four gospels were selected, each one to represent one of the four corners of the earth.
Yeah, that's an interesting thought.
That's what they believed.
Yeah. And another the flat earthers also the ones that get it from the Bible believe that there's a dome over the earth. Okay, and they get this from Isaiah. It says, "It is he that sitteth upon the circle of the earth, and then inhabitants thereof are as grasshoppers, that stretcheth out the heavens as a curtain, and spreadeth them out as a tent to dwell in." So it talks about the circle of the earth. Actually, that could be describing the earth as a globe, but they think that it describes a dome over the earth. So they figure that the earth is flat with four corners with a dome over it from the Bible. And they take this really serious because the Bible is the word of God and it cannot be wrong. But Job reinforces this. From Job, it says, "He drew a circle horizon on the face of the waters at the boundary of light and darkness." And then in Genesis, it says, "Let there be a firmament in the midst of the water, and let it divide the waters from the water." And they believe this firmament above the earth is a big dome. And on this dome is points of light that we call the stars. And then the sun is up there just a couple of 100 miles up, and so is the moon. And they have all this stuff figured out. But where is their illusion? Their illusion is in the idea that the Bible is all literally 100% true as it literally reads. So they read it that way, and if it says it, that is it, and that puts them in illusion, and they can be very intelligent. But then they have this idea in their head that the Bible has to be literally 100% true. And then they come up with all kinds of other things. They had about 20 different things, these flat earthers. The reason that the earth is flat. So let's pick on somebody here. Relina, why do you think the earth is not flat? What evidence can you present? If I was trying to convince you the earth was flat, what would you say?
I don't know that I could. Well, I mean, if the earth is flat, how does the sun go around? How does it work?
Yeah.
Why don't we sail off that if we're out in a boat sailing along, why don't we fall off the earth?
Yeah.
Has anyone fallen off the earth lately?
Right. And how about the astronauts going into space? Now, when the astronauts first went into space, flat earthers said NASA's lying. Everything they're doing is lying. And everything that we've seen through these powerful telescopes is a lie, is that they're just trying to deceive us. But then other nations went, Russia and China, India, Japan, South Korea, um, all gone into space, and private industry have gone into space. Musk has sent rockets into space hundreds of times now. And so look at the number of people who would have to be lying. It used to be just NASA was lying. Now it have to be hundreds of people lying, telling us the Earth is like a globe and sending back pictures.
It's like the movie called The Truman Show. You ever see the movie called The Truman Show?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, he was under the illusion that he was, the world was all there was. I wrote a little blurb. I was having some arguments with some flat earthers, and it's amazing how they're kind of fun to argue with, but I haven't argued with one for a while, but I was going round and round with them. And they were, no matter what I said, they couldn't, they wouldn't budge an inch. And so I finally wrote up this story and posted it. Still didn't convince them, but they didn't have any good answer to the story. And I'll just read you this story about a flat earther. This flat earther is named Jim Bob in the story. Jim Bob grew up in the early 50s in a religion that took the Bible literally. Even so, he accepted the standard view of a round earth until he came across a new preacher named Clem. Clem told him that if he really believed the Bible, he has to believe in a flat earth. To prove his point, Clem showed Jim Bob a number of scriptures that seemed to indicate the earth was the center of the universe, was flat, sat on pillars, had four corners, and was surrounded by a great dome over which resided great waters. The sun and the moon were really the same size and much smaller than we were told, and just circle above us in the dome. The stars and the planets were just lights in the dome set there by God. This all seemed hard to believe for Jim Bob, but he knew the Bible was a literal word of God, so he checked out the scriptures, and sure enough, Clem was right. From that point on, Jim Bob had no doubt that the earth was flat. After all, that's what the Bible said, and God was not a liar. Then in 1957, the Soviets claimed to have sent a satellite into the Earth orbit. This concerned Jim Bob, so he asked Clem about it. If the Earth is flat, how can a satellite be circling around the Earth? Clem responds, "It's a trick, my friend. You know those Russians lie about everything." The first scientific estimates of the Earth's, finding the right page here. There it is. "You must be right," replied Jim Bob. Then on January 31st, 1958, the newspaper headline read that the United States had sent a satellite into orbit. Again, Jim Bob approached Clem. "How is this possible? For this from our own government. We're the good guys." "It's all a game," says Clem. "If the Soviets say they are in orbit, we have to say the same thing or lose face. Who are you going to believe, the corrupt news media or the Bible?" "Well, thanks for setting me straight on that," said Jim Bob. Jim Bob was a little discombobulated in April 1961 when he saw on television that the Russians had claimed to actually send a man into orbit. And then more discomforted still when the United States claimed to send John Glenn into orbit the following year. "What's going on here?" asked Jim Bob to Clem. "Just more of the same," he said. "You just watch. There is no end to the extent they will go to deceive us into thinking the word of God is not valid." "Well, I have to admit that the devil and his angels are pretty tricky," Jim Bob admitted. Then it wasn't long after the United States and Russia sent probes to Mars and Venus and later to other planets. Well, what's the explanation for this? Asked Jim Bob. Same old, said Clem. Like I say, there's no end. They will go to trick us. These guys are Satan's angels right here on the earth working to deceive us. Then came the real big events. The United States Apollo mission sent Apollos 11, 12, 14, 15, 16, and 17 to the moon and brought men back again. Jim Bob watched all the events on TV. Jim Bob approached Clem. My boy is asking questions about these moon missions and is doubting the word of God about a flat earth. What can I tell him? Teach him that God is smarter than all of NASA, who are agents of the devil himself. Here's a booklet proving the moon mission is fake. Are all 6 of them fake? Why not just fake one? Why did they have to go to the trouble to fake 6 of them? That's just who they are, said Clem. The more deception, the better. Remember what I told you. There is nothing they will not do to help the devil in deceiving us. Jim Bob took Clem's words to heart and earnestly taught his son, Jim Bob Jr., to believe in a flat earth, NASA deception, and a very literal Bible. Jim Bob Jr. followed in the footsteps of his father and continued fighting the good fight. He lived to see the internet and Facebook develop and defend the truth of the flat earth as he saw it, as well as attacking all who made the supposed false claims of spaceflight. After he died, Jim Bob III and Jim Bob IV continued the effort. To their dismay, they had more difficult conspiracies to confound. The Chinese eventually went to the moon and built a settlement there, and there were thousands of pictures on the internet of a round Earth taken from the moon, as well as the people who were supposedly on the moon. Jim Bob IV, of course, knew, though, that they were fake. Eventually, NASA, its private enterprise, and several nations went to Mars, the moons of Jupiter, and explored the upper atmosphere of Venus. Jim Bob Jr. knew they were all fake, but he was having a more difficult time convincing people as more testimonies were made of extraplanetary human experience. Finally, a sad day came for Jim Bob IV. His son, Jim Bob V, came home for a visit and was all excited. He said this to his dad. Dad, I received a great bonus for my work. I have 2 tickets for a cruise rocket that will take us into orbit several times, and then when we escape velocity, we'll be off to the moon. We'll land a spacecraft there and relax for a day in low gravity and return. You got to come with me. Jim Bob IV couldn't believe how Satan had got a hold of this kid. Son, how can you participate in the works of the devil? How could you be so deceived? Well, there's one way to prove it, he said. Come with me aboard the spaceship and see for yourself. If you board the spaceship, my son, your brain will be radiated with frequencies from NASA that will make you see and believe what they want you to see. I'm not going to have my brain altered, and I'm ashamed of you for even thinking of going along with Satan and his kingdom. Sorry, Dad, the kid said. I don't buy your flat earth anymore. It's just too much evidence to the contrary. I have many friends who have taken space cruises and their brains are just fine. Jim Bob IV's head was about to explode. You're no longer a son of mine. You now belong to the devil. Get out and don't come back until you get your mind right. Jim Bob V sadly left. But on the bright side, he had a great cruise and realized it was only a matter of time before the flat earthers had to give into reality. So anyway, that takes you into the future that more and more evidence accumulates to the fact that they could even take a cruise into space and look back and still think the Earth is flat because NASA did something to their brains. And, once people get an illusion in their mind, the little story indicates how difficult it is for people to get out of it. So getting out of the illusion is very difficult once a person gets an illusionary thought in her idea planted in his mind. It's like a hypnotic suggestion. If you are hypnotized to believe you're a duck, you will go around quacking like a duck. And the hypnotist has to wake you up before you'll realize you're not a duck. So it's the human mind is a funny thing, and seeing beyond illusion. Now, these two illusions, most people here can see through really easy, but there's a lot of subtle illusions that all of humanity is trapped in that are more difficult to see. Okay, that's we're about out of time there. Is there any comment or questions anyone has before we end here?
Well, don't confuse me with the facts.
My mind's made up. Don't confuse me with facts.
Yeah. A lot of illusion is caused by the literal belief in the Bible, or not so much a literal belief, it's just sometimes just a wrong interpretation of what the scriptures actually say.
Well, I have an example here of from the material we read last week about an illusion, which is really just a false idea. Is what an illusion is, and uh, that is that the humanity and the hierarchy and Shambhala all are independent spheres operating independent of each other. And he says, no, he says, these deductions are dependent upon your domination of the separative mind. For in reality, the work and the activity proceeding in all three centers, Shambhala, the hierarchy, and humanity, are merged, fused, and interdependent. They are all mutually evocative and invocative. So he's saying that the illusion is that because the lower mind separates everything, that heaven is separate from earth, that Shambhala, the masters are separate. He says, but that's not true, and that's one of the great illusions that has to be dissipated in our day.
Yeah, all separation is really illusion. Like here we see images of each one of us, that Ed is in Fruitland, Curtis in New Plymouth, and Andrew, I'm not sure where he is. It looks like he's on another planet from his picture there. But we're really not separated in the true reality.
That's the lower mind that separates.
Yeah. Okay, my friends, good discussion. And if you meet a flat earther, have some fun irritating him.
Nice beard there, Andrew.
Yeah. So we will see you next week.
Carry on. Good class, Joe.